Hello, my name is Shamal Sandeep, number 194-1261. This is my demonstration for the CIS project. So this is our welcome screen. We have an Autoshop management system called Automec, and if you click on the admin here, we can log in to the admin dashboard. So in the admin dashboard, we can see the items that has the highest number of stocks, and this was done by me. And then the create item ledger and the add stocks parts were also done by me. And then I have done the issue invoice part in the mechanics dashboard also, which I will be demonstrating in the latter section of the video. So first of all, I will show how I have implemented this section. So for that, we need to first open up the the admin dashboard. So in the admin dashboard, we can see that I'm calling this quickchart.io API to obtain a new image right here, and then I'm using the set icon method in the labels to display that image. So the data for this chart is passed from this RMI server, and then I'm calling the most items method on the server. So if we get the implementation of the most items, we can see here that I have created an array list of particular items, and then calling the database, and then looping through them, and then adding to the array list, and then returning them. Now moving on to the next section. This create item part was also done by me. So if I put item 4 and name is item 4, then price will say 40, and then the quantity is 20. Click add, it shows the item has been added. So we can go to the item ledger and then see that that particular item has been added. So now if we need to increase this quantity, we can use this add stocks function. Right here we can select the particular item and then add the quantity, click add. So right now it says only 20, so let's see what happens after the update. Click add stocks added. So if we click on the ledger again, we can see the quantity has been increased from 20 to 40. So looking at the code, let's take a look at the create item section first. So right here I have implemented the create item functionality. So once the create item button is pressed, I am calling the add item method on the remote server. So I am using the ID text, name text, and then I pass the price text fields value to a float, and then the quantity text fields value to an integer, and then the message is shown if it is successfully added. So if we take a look at the implementation of here, it shows that it returns a boolean. So if you go to the implementation, so right here we can see that it is placing the item into the item table using an insert query, and then if the statement is successful, it is returning true, or otherwise it's returning false. So now let's take a look at this item ledger. So we can see the interface right here. In here, once the database is once the form is loading, I'm using the constructor to call the item ledger method on the server, and then obtain those items to this item ledger array list, and then I'm looping through those items and then adding them to the table. So if you look at the implementation, it returns an array list of items. So in the implementation, you can see that it returns an array list by querying the items table. Now moving on to the add stock section right here. If we take a look at the code, so once the form is loading, using the constructor, I am obtaining the item ledger first, because I have to show this drop down. So I'm obtaining the list, and then once the add button is pressed, I'm adding those items to the table. And once the add stock button is performed, I am loading those items in the table to an array list, and then I'm passing those data to the add stock method on the server. So takes an item array list as the parameter and then returns a boolean to show whether it was successful or not. So if we take a look at the implementation right here, we can see it takes an array list as input and then it loops through the item array list and then execute the update code. So now I will be demonstrating the add the invoice option that I created on the mechanics dashboard. So I will log in again using the welcome screen. So I'm going to log in as Bobby. So now we can see the show invoice option right here. So I can select the customer that I have to invoice to. So let's click on that and then we can add 5 items right here, and let's say we add another 10 items, and if we click on issue invoice, the invoice is issued. So if you take a look at the implementation, so it's the issue invoice section right here. So once the database is once the form is loading, I'm calling the item ledger to obtain the item list and the customer list to obtain the customer list. And once the add item has been pressed, uh, I'm adding the I'm adding the item and then the quantity to the table. And once the issue invoice button has been pressed, I'm obtaining the customer object from the drop down list, and then I'm creating a new invoice right here by creating the new invoice and passing in the customer, and then I'm looping through all the stocks, the invoice table, and then adding those items to the invoice and then passing it to the add invoice method of the server. So if we can look at if you take a look here, it shows the class of invoice is taken as the parameter. So if you take a look at the implementation right here, we can see that we first insert to the insert invoice table and then obtain the invoice ID, because we need to use the invoice ID to add those particular items to the invoice items table, which is right here. So if it is successful, it returns true, otherwise it returns false. So that is the final demonstration, and thank you.